Usually when we try to figure out why certain people succeed wildly, while others just constantly struggle, we point to this massive, hopelessly tangled web of variables.
Yeah, it's a huge web.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at anyone's life, it's so tempting to blame the economy or like geographic luck or who their parents knew or just, pure, unpredictable dumb luck.
It's incredibly comforting to view the world through that lens, honestly,
Oh, for sure.
because distributing the weight of a person's fate across a wider systemic web, well, it takes the pressure off the individual. It kind of suggests that if things aren't going your way, it might just be a glitch in the matrix.
Right, like it's not a flaw in you.
Exactly.
But today's source material takes an absolute sledgehammer to that entire web. We are doing a deep dive into a 2013 philosophical and spiritual essay by an author named Shui Feng, and it's simply titled Internal Structure is What Matters.
And it is a radical thesis.
It really is. It basically claims that your destiny, your societal status, and even your ultimate spiritual salvation boil down to a single, uncompromising metric, which is your internal structure.
Right, and everything else is just noise.
Yeah.
So our mission today, for you, the listener, is to unpack this worldview. It asserts that the exact reason we succeed or fail, and truly the fundamental nature of absolutely everything in the universe, is baked entirely into our structural makeup.
Now, before we step into this particular architectural framework of the universe, we need to lay down a crucial ground rule for this deep dive.
Yes, very important.
Because this text makes highly specific spiritual claims, and it constructs these rigid hierarchies of living beings, and puts forward a very definitive worldview regarding social status. We want to be crystal clear. We are not taking sides here.
That is a vital distinction.
Yeah.
We're not endorsing or validating the author's philosophy, nor are we, dismissing it.
Right, we're impartial.
Exactly. We are putting on our impartial reporter hats today. Our goal is strictly to guide you through these concepts, analyze the author's arguments, and help you understand this highly unique and, frankly, sometimes very challenging perspective.
Think of us as your designated drivers through a very intense philosophical landscape. And to start this journey, we have to look at how the author sets the foundation. Because this doesn't actually begin with lofty spiritual theories.
No, it doesn't.
It starts with tangible physical science.
Right. The author uses foundational chemistry and economics to prove a baseline rule, which is that structure equals value.
Okay.
The core premise is that the nature, the function, and the ultimate worth of all things are determined strictly by their internal structural arrangement, completely independent of external opinions.
Which is wild. And the essay starts with things you can probably taste right now in your kitchen, like sugar and tea.
Yeah, simple stuff.
Right. Sugar is undeniably sweet. Tea is inherently bitter. And the text points out that this sensory difference is decided entirely by their molecular structure. Like, human beings don't get to vote on whether sugar is sweet today. It just is because of how its molecules are bound together.
And building directly on that undeniable chemical reality, the author pivots to economics to show how structure translates to monetary value.
Right.
And the comparison he uses is diamonds versus gold.
Yeah, this part is fascinating. So a carat of diamond, which is basically a tiny speck weighing like 0.2 grams, is priced at 14,000 RMB.
Right.
But an entire ounce of gold is only about 10,270 RMB. So when you break that math down to an equal weight...
1 carat of gold costs a mere 70 RMB.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at a 14,000 RMB diamond versus a 70 RMB piece of gold of the exact same weight.
It's a staggering 200 to 1 price difference.
It really is. And the author argues this gap is 100% due to the differing internal structures of the two materials. The text even twists the knife by pointing out that a 1-carat common stone is so utterly worthless that its value cannot even be measured on a market scale.
Right, a rock is just a rock.
But, I have a major pushback here.
Let's hear.
If a diamond and a piece of common coal are both essentially just carbon, isn't it the extreme external pressure over millions of years that changes the structure?
Well, yes.
Doesn't the external environment actively create that internal structure? You can't just divorce the result from the process, right?
What's fascinating here is that the author strictly focuses on the resultant structure, completely dismissing the environmental journey.
Wow, just ignores it.
Pretty much. The text is operating in a state of radical presentism. The argument is that in the present moment, once the structure is set, the value is inherent and undeniable.
Huh.
The market doesn't write a check for the millions of years of pressure or, the heat of the Earth's crust. It only pays for the structural result sitting on the jeweler's counter, which is the diamond.
Wait, I can't just let the author off the hook for that. If external pressure makes the diamond, then external societal pressures must shape the human, right? How does the author reconcile ignoring the forces that actually forge the thing?
The author doesn't feel the need to reconcile it, honestly,
Yeah.
because the philosophy is entirely concerned with utility and reality as it exists right now.
Right now. Okay.
Like, if you are building a machine, you need a diamond to cut glass. A piece of coal cannot cut glass, regardless of how unfair it is that the coal didn't get enough geological pressure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the function is locked to the current structure.
That is a ruthless kind of physics. I mean, the journey is totally irrelevant. The current blueprint is everything.
And that uncompromising structural permanence is exactly the lever the author uses to jump seamlessly from inanimate objects like diamonds and gold right into the realm of living things.
Which takes us from the jewelry store to the forest floor.
Yes, the mushroom analogy.
Right. The text introduces this vivid life or death analogy about mushrooms. Imagine walking through the woods and finding two mushrooms growing side by side in the exact same patch of dirt.
Same soil, same everything.
Exactly. One is packed with nutrients and will keep you alive. The other is highly poisonous and will kill you if you take a bite.
The author argues that this dramatic divergence in function, life-giving versus lethal, has absolutely nothing to do with the soil or the rainfall or the surrounding forest.
Because those environmental factors were identical.
Right. The difference is solely due to their differing internal structures.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if you are listening to this, you are probably trying to map this onto humanity.
Naturally.
If humans are all technically the same biological species, just like those two mushrooms might look identical on the outside, how exactly does the author define a human's internal structure? Are we just talking about biological DNA?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of the author's philosophy, it becomes clear we are moving far beyond biological genetics.
Okay, so what is it then?
The author is talking about a non-material structure. Think of it like the invisible source code or the operating system of a computer.
Oh, I see.
The hardware might look like a standard human body, but this non-material structural blueprint is what dictates the software's capabilities.
And the text claims this non-material source code is the sole determinant of the role a person plays in life, the responsibilities they are capable of handling, and the accomplishments they ultimately achieve.
Exactly.
It actually scales up into this enormous spiritual taxonomy.
It really does. It's a vast cosmic hierarchy entirely sorted by this non-material structure. The text lists the greatest creator, gods, Buddha, angels, bodhisattvas, and celestial beings at the top.
Wow, that's comprehensive.
Very. Then you have mortals and animals, and on the darker end of the spectrum, devils, demons, monsters, and evil spirits.
And even within the human category, it doesn't view us as a monolith.
Yeah.
The author categorizes humanity into celestials, saints, sages, laities, meaning everyday lay people, and ignorant people.
Right.
They are all technically human, but they are entirely separated by their differing internal structures.
Which means your resume, your professional network, your bank account, none of these external markers actually dictate your life path.
None of it.
Your non-material structure dictates your reality, and the author insists this cannot be overridden by society.
I mean, if that invisible source code dictates everything about our accomplishments and our social roles, this brings us to a massive collision with modern sensibilities.
Oh, definitely.
Because what does this mean for how we view fairness? Like, how are we supposed to process social status or our daily struggles?
The author does not soften the blow here at all. The text uses incredibly sharp metaphors to illustrate a natural, unavoidable sorting mechanism in society based on structure.
Right.
For instance, it states, gems are inlaid into crowns, while cobblestones are not.
That is a stark, almost feudal image.
Yeah.
And the metaphors just keep piling up. The author points out that peaches, plums, and peonies naturally attract people and butterflies without having to speak or assume their own beauty. The underlying structure simply emanates value.
Conversely, the text notes that no matter how much flies and mosquitoes might dress themselves up, people will still detest them. Beggars lack refined tastes. And perhaps the most blunt metaphor of all, dog meat is not to be served at feasts.
The implication being that those who lack intrinsic elegance or good etiquette are simply not presentable in high-value situations.
Exactly.
The internal structure dictates the social role. End of story. I mean, I have to raise a massive red flag here. on behalf of anyone navigating the real world.
I figure you might.
Yeah, if you are passed over for a promotion due to blatant workplace bias, or if someone is dealing with redlining or algorithm-driven systemic inequality, this text is essentially telling them they are just a cobblestone complaining about not being put into a ground.
That is the direct, unvarnished implication of the text.
That feels like it completely dismisses historical disadvantages, deeply ingrained human bias, and structural oppression.
It does.
If someone is born into extreme poverty, this philosophy seems to shrug and say, well, your internal structure just isn't a gem. How can the author justify such a seemingly harsh, uncompromising stance?
The justification lies in the author's demand for absolute, unwavering personal accountability.
Okay. Because the core premise is that the internal structure alone dictates reality. The text argues that it is logically flawed to envy others or to blame social injustice.
I mean, the essay literally says it is fundamentally wrong to resent a low social status. It claims the ideal state is to be content in poverty and devoted to spiritual matters.
Right. The author is systematically dismantling every single external scapegoat you might use to protect your ego.
Wow.
The text explicitly states that if you blame heaven, earth, or society for your bad luck, or if you look for external excuses for your failures rather than looking inward, you are being ignorant or just plain stupid.
Ignorant or just plain stupid. That is a direct quote.
Yes, it is.
The author is demanding that if you are unsatisfied with your life, you must look for the source causes solely within your own internal structure. No exceptions.
This means the text actively condemns the typical strategies people use to climb the social ladder.
Right, like networking. Exactly. It explicitly forbids flattering others, using connections to seek special treatment, or searching for magical shortcuts to success. It even says you shouldn't beg for mercy.
Because none of those things actually rewrite your non-material source code.
Precisely.
If a piece of common gravel begs a jeweler to price it at 14,000 RMB, it doesn't matter how much it flatters the jeweler. The gravel hasn't changed its structure, so the value remains zero.
Exactly. If you accept this premise, trying to change your external circumstances without changing your internal structure is a complete waste of energy.
Which brings up a rather urgent question. If I can't blame society, and I can't network my way to the better life, what actionable solution does this text offer?
Well,
If someone's current internal structure has them stuck at a low social status, are they just doomed to be a cobblestone forever?
the author actually provides a very specific roadmap out of this. It's a method termed self-refinery.
Self-refinery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The text states that since all things are determined by internal structures, our only logical course of action is to actively perfect those structures by altering our intrinsic qualities.
It's essentially a guide to rewriting your spiritual DNA. The author gives a clear binary of what to cultivate and what to purge.
Yes, very clear.
To improve your internal structure, you must cultivate diligence, kindness, purity, honesty, integrity, modesty, and open-mindedness.
And you must actively shed the bad qualities, which the author identifies as jealousy, blame, selfishness, greed, laziness, arrogance, dishonesty, and narrow-mindedness.
So the mechanism of change isn't going back to school for an MBA. It is the literal purging of jealousy and greed. But how does that actually work mechanically?
Where do you?
Like, how does being honest change my outcomes if I'm still physically the same person?
The argument is that harboring traits like selfishness or arrogance acts like a virus in your non-material source code. It structurally compromises your architecture.
Oh, I get it.
The text warns that without good intrinsic qualities, any good fortune you manage to stumble into will be very brief.
It's like trying to build a 90-story skyscraper on a foundation of loose sand. You might get a few floors up, and it might look incredibly impressive for a minute, but the internal structure of the sand guarantees a catastrophic collapse.
Exactly. The underlying blueprint always reasserts itself.
Right.
The reality will eventually match the non-material blueprint. And for the author, the ultimate goal of rewriting this blueprint isn't just to secure a better job or a nicer house in the material world. The ultimate goal is moving toward heaven.
Right. The text insists that anyone serious about moving toward heaven must invest their time and energy exclusively into non-material self-improvement, completely abandoning the project of changing the external world.
Yeah, if your internal quality isn't excellent, reaching heaven is structurally impossible.
This leads to the author's final striking metaphor about the hard rock. The text asserts that a hard rock in its current state will never be cherished or valued by others, no matter how hard it tries. So, what does this all mean? If the ultimate goal is to reach this elevated spiritual destination by acting like a diamond rather than a rock, does the author give any genuine hope to the hard rock that desperately wants to be cherished? Or are some people just stuck as rocks?
This raises an important question,
Yeah.
and is where the author finally offers a profound message of hope, albeit a relentlessly demanding one.
Okay, lay it on me.
The text confirms that the rock is not doomed, but it must alter its internal structure. There is no workaround.
The rock has to endure the internal laboratory of self-refinery.
Yes. But if it successfully does that work, if it genuinely perfects its non-material structure, the text promises that the rock will absolutely be valued. It will be loved as a treasure and applied in the most noble places.
So life in this worldview isn't a lottery you win or lose. It isn't a political battlefield where you have to outmaneuver your opponents. It is framed entirely as an active, intensely personal feedback loop.
Yes, exactly. Every setback, every demotion, every moment of low status is simply the universe giving you diagnostic feedback. It's an indicator that your internal structure still contains flaws that need refining. The responsibility is 100% yours.
It is a heavy, almost overwhelming philosophy. To synthesize all of this, Shuofeng's essay presents a worldview where absolutely everything, from the simple sweetness of sugar on your tongue to the astronomical price tag of a diamond, all the way up to your ultimate spiritual destination, is dictated by internal structure.
It is a perspective that leaves zero oxygen for external excuses. It utterly rejects the modern impulse to blame society, bad luck, or systemic flaws.
Yeah.
And instead it demands a total, uncompromising focus on cultivating pure, intrinsic qualities like honesty and diligence over any kind of outward social climbing.
It basically says you cannot fake being a diamond by polishing the outside of a piece of coal. You actually have to do the grueling work of changing your molecular structure from the inside out.
Perfectly said.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. If this text is right, and our non-material structure is entirely responsible for our social role and our spiritual destiny, at what point does the drive for self-improvement end and the grace of self-acceptance begin?
Right, like where is the line between constantly refining the source code and just allowing yourself to exist?
Exactly. And think about this. If a so-called cobblestone truly manages to do the impossible, if it completely alters its internal non-material structure and becomes a radiant gem worthy of a king's crown, was it ever really a cobblestone to begin with?
Oh, that's a great point.
Or was it just an unpolished gem all along, quietly waiting for the right moment to finally do the work? Thanks for exploring this deep dive into the source material with us. We'll catch you next time.